You're listening to the Modern Healthcare Back Office, a podcast dedicated to solving the billing issues and gridlock facing the healthcare industry, presented by Prochant, hosted by Chuck Ellis and Rachel Schools.
Hey there, folks. Chuck here. Welcome to another episode of the Modern Healthcare Back Office. I am joined, as always, by my amazing co-host, Ms. Rachel Schools. How you doing, Rachel?
I am amazing. Thank you.
Wonderful.
How are you?
I am also doing amazing, and this is a special episode for us because 25 of these now, depending on when this episode gets released in your feed, but it's been about 25 now, which is pretty wild. There are a lot of podcasts that don't make it that many episodes. So to those of you who have stuck with us from the beginning, thank you so much. And if you're just joining us, this is a great one to jump in at because we're going to be going a little back to basics here and talking about ourselves. And in case you were curious about who are these two people talking about revenue cycle management and healthcare. And then we're going to talk a bit about our upcoming thing, which is Prochant Academy, which I'm very excited to talk to you about in more detail. But enough about that. Let's get to the first things first, the why of this show. And the why of this show is kind of the brainchild of Rachel and myself. I've been at Prochant now for about a year. And before that, I had no real experience in healthcare, let alone revenue cycle management. But I'm a marketing guy with a strong background in creating content on the internet, content for broadcasting, live TV, video production, podcasting. And I was brought in because they wanted a fresh outside perspective and somebody that could help kind of liven things up. And so one of the first things I was tasked with was coming up with a better way to elevate our expertise and get it broadcast out to the people who need to hear it most. And we have this huge knowledge base of talented people who do back office management and revenue cycle management every day and have 20 plus years experience. I'm amazed at how many people on our team, Rachel, have like over 20 years experience in the industry like that.
Why are you dating me?
I didn't say you.
You just told.
I did not say you. Hey, I could have been talking about anybody.
You could have been talking about anybody,
But that's
yes.
okay. But, now that you have mentioned it, yes, Rachel is the pivotal part here because unlike myself, she has a great deal of experience for her amazingly young age at
Thank you.
at revenue cycle management because she's been doing it since she was 8 years old. And so I said, hey, I'm pretty good at making podcasts and you're pretty good at helping people with revenue cycle management. And we got chocolate in our peanut butter and we created this Reese's peanut butter cup that we call the Modern Healthcare Back Office. And Rachel was a very early champion of me in this project. And so, of course, when it came time to do it, I was like, Rachel, you got to be my co-host on this because we could talk about this stuff all day long and you've got a lot of great ideas and a voice I think that's unique to this industry in a good way, that people want to listen to. So that was how I came to be on this show. And I'm really excited to be here. And we're going to be talking about what it's like to kind of fall into this. And one of the advantages, I think, of me being in this position of kind of falling into becoming an expert on revenue cycle management is that a lot of our listeners find themselves in the same boat. A lot of them don't come from an accounting background or a revenue cycle background or a business background. They come from a healthcare background, and then they find themselves going, oh no, there's nobody to run this business now. I've got to step in. Or there's the owner of the company is saying, okay, well, I know that you've handled some of this low level stuff. Now you're in charge of our entire revenue cycle management system, and they're having to learn on the fly, much like I am. So I thought, with this kind of approach, it's going to be very good because I am not afraid to go, hey, can you explain that back to me? I don't fully understand that because I don't have any pride when it comes to, I shouldn't know anything about revenue cycle management. I'm a broadcaster and marketer. So, and Rachel and any of our guests can keep, if they start getting ahead of themselves, I can go, hey, hold on a second here. What is the definition of that? I don't know what that is. And we've had some really positive responses from it, actually.
So you just said something, Chuck. You said with an approach like this, right? So I want to pause for a second. And you came to us, Chuck, like you are an expert. You're a genius, right? And you said, hey,
Oh, shucks.
but I don't know anything about revenue cycle. And I had this hunch that I could not force you. I didn't mean force, nudge you to learn the revenue cycle. And I think
Osmosis.
something has happened to you recently, totally by accident, where you just accidentally became a revenue cycle expert. And I think that's kind of what we want to share is like, what is this approach? What are you doing? You're going to teach me revenue cycle.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's the other kind of crazy part is I guess if you can learn by teaching. It's not just those who can't teach. It's a great learning tool because you have to learn the material. So Rachel, before we get into that, I wanted to turn things over to you really quick and kind of we've done a little getting to know me. But let's get to know Rachel a little bit better and tell us a little bit about how you found yourself as our head consultant here at Prochant.
Goodness gracious. That's a long story. And I don't know that we have that much time, but I have been here since January the 2nd, 2017. Joey called me actually, and we knew each other from past lives. For those of you who don't know, Joey is our chief revenue officer. Anyway, he called me and he let me know, hey, you just started here. He gave me some background and he told me sort of where they were in terms of size, goals for growth, things like that, and said, hey, I really need some help structuring our onboarding process and kind of getting us ready for growth. And I thought, wow, that sounds challenging. And I was like, what do we have right now? And he's like, I need help, right? I'm getting it
Hmm.
ready. So I love the idea of that challenge, Chuck, and I came on over. So I started working in healthcare revenue cycle management, and I'm gonna say healthcare every time, Chuck, because over the years I have worked in many different industries, right? So obviously I
Hmm.
started in durable medical equipment. I was about 20 years old. I know I wasn't 21 yet because I couldn't buy alcohol. So I had to be 19 or 20.
An important part of DME management if you don't know what you're doing,
So I know
or even if you do.
yeah, I do remember there being jokes about me not being able to drink yet. So I had to be under 20. It was a very, very small DME company, just about 15 minutes away from where I live right now. For those of you who don't know, I'm in very rural Georgia. I like it that way. Live in a little town of about 800 people. So anyway, Chuck, I worked at that. I got a job through Teen Temps actually at this very small pharmacy that also had wasn't a DME company. We were a billing service like Prochant.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it was a pharmacy and a billing service. We had pharmacy. We had customers who did durable medical equipment, home medical equipment, infusion. So we were a billing service, and they actually hired me to convert them from QS1 software to what is biggest software on our market today, right? And
Hmm.
I was only, like I said,
We know who that is. Yes. Hmm.
so I don't know if you know what that means. Well, you should know what that means now. I needed to move patients, right, from one system to
Hmm.
another. I needed to move orders from one system to another. So guess what that meant I was doing? Data
Lots of
entry.
paperwork, I bet, and data
Data
entry.
entry. And then also my other job was to hand complete the Georgia Medicaid secondary claim forms. I
Oh
had to
man.
write them by hand because they required some fancy stuff that most software systems didn't accommodate. So that's how I ended up in this industry, if you want to know. I just was hired temporarily to handle some projects. They ended up hiring me. They liked me. I guess I did a good job. I hope I did because I got it really quick because I
Yeah.
I'm observant, right? So I
They were like, she keeps showing up. We'll keep paying her.
exactly. No, I kept as I was doing those sort of mundane things, as I call them, because those are very mundane jobs. I picked up on the business, right? So you mentioned the revenue cycle and all of the different components. My mind works that way. So I'm like, I got this, right? So I quickly sort of became lead trainer and then rolled out Bright Tree to like we had different branch offices and stuff. So I was sort of lead trainer, lead reimbursement specialist. But I was also in college, Chuck, taking base administration classes and statistics and everything else at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And I was learning about this software sort of data makeup from their lead data architect. So I was getting all kinds of knowledge at one time.
Hmm.
That's how I ended up here. So I stayed there for a few years. I ended up somewhere around the age of 23, 24. I went and worked for this other company that probably in support. They hired me just to do sort of customer support. I moved from customer to support to, we realized that we needed sort of a team in between when a client would come on a new software, right? And be dumped into general support. I helped start a team that we called the transition team, if you will. It was a dedicated group of support specialists who knew how to take care of people that were struggling with change.
So people.
So did that for a while.
Yes, just people in general.
Oh yeah, so people. So I did that. So support, then transition, then account management. Then I decided I wanted a break from the software side, and I went back into healthcare, the provider side. I was working in mental health, primary health care as director of revenue cycle management for the largest community mental health provider in the state. They serve all 7 coastal counties of Georgia. So I did that. That was fun. That was probably my favorite project so far. Because when I went in, it was rough. I think their collection rate, and you should know what that is now, Chuck, right? Was maybe 78%, something like that.
Oof. I know that's bad.
It was 78-ish.
That's real bad.
I think when I left, we were at an average of 95. 95 some months, 97. It just depended on what was going on. So anyway, ended up going back to the large software provider as a project manager. I was implementation project manager for enterprise or large accounts. And then as I ended up here when I told you. So I've been in it for a while, Chuck, and I've seen a little bit of everything.
Yes, you know whereof you speak on this. Yeah.
But I have forgotten more than I remember. So now you're the expert, right?
Yeah. Well, I like to pick at those little bits and create the spark of recall and in these conversations. So I'm very much enjoying that aspect of it. And it's funny because like I said, my background is completely not related to healthcare. Although I did work for a food testing laboratory for about 3.5 years, and it was the closest I've come so far to a lot of the similar stuff with confidentiality and a lot of medical type stuff.
Because it's government.
And it touches the government. It touches
medical government.
Large corporations that serve the public, and there are a lot of people in white lab coats. So yeah, basically the same thing.
If you do anything with the government, this is like a helpful hint, right? My mom worked in public service for years and years and years for the federal government. And if you understand how government works, like that's how healthcare works, if that makes any sense.
Lots of bureaucracy.
There's this rule.
Lots of rules. Lots of interesting, archaic, sometimes antediluvian sounding rules.
But if you follow them,
then you can achieve great things.
Whatever.
Anyway. But yeah, so out of all of that, the two of us have come together and created this show, and we just got a really nice compliment from somebody who had listened in and enjoys the show. So thank you very much to our anonymous friend who said very nice things about us. But in keeping with that, we noticed when we were starting to get feedback on this show that people were actually using it as a training source because, not unlike myself, they had found themselves falling into revenue cycle management as a necessity of the changing climate of everything between COVID and inflation and interest rates going up and everyone having to do more with less and people quitting their jobs or moving away. And it's kind of become necessary for people to become experts in things that they didn't necessarily have training for. So the podcast was basically phase 1 of us saying, hey, we know a lot about revenue cycle management, and not enough people know how much we know about that. So what if we just started telling them and made it available for free, and people
Hmm.
and then people would know what we know, and if they had any questions, they could talk about things with us further. And so 25 or so episodes in, that's where we're at. And so we started, the second phase was kind of an ancillary thing that's not necessarily on this podcast, but we do monthly webinars. And if you subscribe to the Prochant newsletter at prochant.com, you would know about that. And those are kind of once a month industry based webinars that really break down some of the more heady stuff that takes more than a podcast episode to talk about. And then what's really exciting is we've started phase 3, which we're calling, drumroll please, Prochant Academy. Yes. So Prochant Academy is going to basically be a free series of multimedia courses that will be available on our site for free. You don't need to put in your email address. You don't need to do anything. You can just go on our site. And starting in May, these will be posted on our site, prochant.com. And we're starting with Revenue Cycle 101. We're starting with, so you've fallen into the chair of a revenue cycle management person, and somebody saw you sitting there, and now that's your job. And and so
I like it.
and this is what Rachel was alluding to earlier, where I accidentally became an expert in revenue cycle management, because it has come to me to create these courses along with Rachel and Tina and some of the other great people on our team, basically, that they have provided me with a framework, and they're
An
an outline,
outline, a
a simple
simple
outline of,
outline.
here's the things, here's where to get the information on the things. You're a writer, so go write something. So I've been using all of the tools available to me to start creating this course, including some of the more high tech stuff. We've had, there's been times where Rachel may not be available to answer a question. So I'll be like, in the meantime, I'm going to have ChatGPT write something. And then I'll show it to Rachel, and she'll be like, yeah, how'd you figure this out? And I'll be like, oh,
Because you're a
my,
genius.
my I'm a genius, and
That's
my
right.
my little friend did the Google searching for me, so I didn't have to. And yeah, so this course that we're working on right now, it's called Introduction to Revenue Cycle Management, catchy title. And it really starts with basics: introductions, intake, patient registration, order confirmation, billing, claims management, claim submissions, denials, what to do with analytics and reporting, and finally wrapping it all up with the future of the healthcare revenue cycle management. And that's going to be where we really kind of set things apart and have it be not just about what revenue cycle management is, but where revenue cycle management is going.
And that includes, Chuck, the actual future of where the industry is going, right? We're going to take
Exactly.
a look at regulations. So, what is life going to look like when we are no longer a fee for service industry, but we are under some sort of a capitated model
Hmm.
or a what we're going to talk about all kinds of fun stuff, right?
Right. So that's what we got to look forward to. And these courses are going to be, like I said, available on prochant.com. And we are going to be posting audio versions of the courses that are basically Rachel and I going through the course together and talking about them. And those are going to be released in your podcast feed every week. So if you're subscribed to this show or you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, you'll be able to see those once a week in your feed or on the YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and follow us, because they're going to be really fun. Because basically what we've got is we've got the course, and we've got the course is going to be narrated possibly by someone else, whatever it's going to be done by. And but the podcast episodes are going to be Rachel and I walking through them together and breaking things down and going a little more of a deep dive than the basic course. So it'll be a really good supplement to the videos and to the written material that we will have on that course. So be
So,
sure to,
you're just going to ask me what you couldn't figure out, right?
exactly. So I'll be
Ah,
like, Rachel,
yes.
what about this? I have questions. So yeah, that's basically what this episode is about. It's kind of a cool announcement. Really excited about it. We're really excited that you have given us this amount of time to share our experiences and learn alongside me and listen alongside Rachel as we figure out the healthcare back office together. So, Rachel, you got anything you would like to add before we wrap things up here?
I don't.
All right. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, everybody who has joined us today. And if you haven't yet, why don't you go over to Apple Podcasts and rate us 5 stars? That would really help get this show some notice. And if you get a chance and you find one of these episodes useful, hey, share it with one of your colleagues or post it on LinkedIn. That really helps a lot too. So as always, we want to thank you for joining us on the episode today. On behalf of myself, Rachel, and the rest of the Prochant team, we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.